myself and Drew, who is my research partner, basically, we want to share with you some of the work we've been doing on a very important piece of research involving the impact of the Equiano internet cable project here on St. Helena, specifically, as was just mentioned, with regards to if this Equiano cable will in fact bridge the digital divide or bypass it completely. As I was saying, just a little bit of background into this project. So the Equiano cable project, the cable itself is owned by Google, and a contract was signed with SHG in December 2019, basically so that we could have a spur of this cable so that we could access it. So it's about 15,000 kilometers in length, and you can see that's where we are right there, and that with that little red circle there in St. Helena. So there's other spurs off the cable as well. It started in Portugal, as you can see there. It's also in Lagos there, Nigeria. And it's also, obviously, you can see here on the map in South Africa, finishing off in South Africa. What is pretty interesting, though, St. Helena's branch was actually the first shore cable landing of the entire Equiano project. So that was pretty cool for us that we were the first people to get it, access that cable. And that was on the 26th or the 29th of August in 2021. So this is actually the man who was responsible or did a lot of the legwork. Mr. Jerry Roberts, who was actually my boss, and this is just a picture here of when they actually landed the cable in 2021 with one of the engineers that came here as well. So this cable, it's amazing. You know, again, maximum capacity for it is 144 terabits per second, which is really fast. It has 12 fiber pairs inside it. St. Helena has access to one fiber pair, which is capable of uploading 100 gigabits per second up and 100 gigabits per second down. Basically, uploading and download speed is 100 gigabits per second. And funding for this project was actually released from the European Development Fund to fund this project. So we're very grateful to the European Development Fund. And the justification for this was that, you know, it was going to improve the island's connectivity, benefit us in terms of our healthcare, education, business, you know, so many areas it would obviously benefit by, you know, increasing our internet bandwidth. So yes, that's just a little brief background to the Equiano cable project. So about the actual research project itself. So in January 2021, the St. Helena Research Institute launched the Bridging the Digital Divide Research Competition. And this research basically was linked to the social objectives from the European Development Fund project, because they were interested in like improving connectivity of households in St. Helena, reducing the number of overseas referrals for health, because a lot of our St. Helenians have to be referred to South Africa. So, you know, it was hoped that the increase in bandwidth would reduce that. Also to enable people with like special educational needs to reach their true potential with disabilities even. So that was some of the objectives, and also part of this European Development Fund as well. St. Helena government were also required to do an evaluation of the cable before and after to basically see what the impact was. So, you know, they wanted to look at, you know, educational improvement, telemedicine, like I said, even for mental health, etc. And yeah, any impacts really on the, you know, social economic conditions on the island. And so, you know, when this competition came out, was advertised, I was actually studying my master's in digital technologies, communication, and education at the University of Manchester, which is where I, you know, met Drew. So, you know, I knew his sort of background and I thought he would really be interested in this. And I was also interested as well, because before I went to study in Manchester, I was a computer science and ICT teacher for over 5 years. So I really knew the importance of developing digital literacy, and it was just really interesting to me that this and I wanted to know what would the cable do? Would it actually benefit us specifically for education from my side, because I was working in education at the time. So this is just a little poster of me standing up at the front of my classroom. It will give us access to a plethora of teaching tools and resources, from video link up to students overseas, streaming educational videos to cloud-based learning. The cable will be a definite game changer. So I actually made this poster working on another project. It was a Evening alumni project I was leading up at the time, promoting all the benefits that the cable will bring. And I think a lot of people at the time didn't truly understand how big of an impact it would have on the island. They were mainly more excited about the fact that we can have Netflix. Most people were more excited about that, I think, than the other sides, the other benefits of the cable. So yes, that's basically how we started this project, how I got in contact with Drew through the Helena Research Institute. And obviously we were successful for that competition, and we had a grant from the Research Institute, and then subsequently also from the University of Manchester, and the British Academy have also contributed further to this research project. So some of the methods we used to do the data gathering for our research. So data collection officially began in November 2021, planned to end in April 2025, hopefully. And we used something called a concept mapping tool called CATSO, and it looks like this. So basically, it's a graphical concept mapping tool developed by Joanne Tippett from the University of Manchester, again, do this, and which is why I also thought it would be a great tool to use for this research project. So this is actually a session I did with some teachers at our local secondary school. And so all it is, basically, you have a felt mat, as you can see here. You have like a central theme. You have branches which you can stick on, sort of like sub themes. And then, as you can see here, you can stick on different leaves to represent different themes. So in the research we were doing it, we had like the brown leaves representing the current uses of the internet and ICTs. The gray leaves were the challenges preventing the full utilization of the internet and ICTs. The yellow leaves were like the solutions to these barriers, and the green leaves were the new opportunities the new internet service could provide, basically. So in this session it was pre-cable. But this was actually part of my dissertation for my master's, and this was sort of like the pilot study I did for this research. So it was really interesting to do this with teachers. I also did it with a set of older students, as well as some teacher trainees as well. But this was just a session with some of the teachers at the time. And also, this was supplemented by some interviews, which was mainly done by Drew when he initially came to the island. So that was supplemented with that as well. And also, again, Drew did some archive studies as well, which he will probably tell you more about later. So that was the main ways we gathered and are still gathering data for the research.
I will tell them about,
before the cable.
Gareth, if you leave me some time, but time is short, so we skip through this slide.
This is my last one. Sorry, Drew. So pre-activation, just to give you little brief details about how the internet was before we had access to the cable. So the internet was very slow and restrictive before. It was shared amongst our island's population. It was just one single satellite uplink, 40 megabits per second. Download speed 14 megabits. We had to share that around with, well, according to Neil, it was 4,000 people, not 4,500. So sorry, Neil. So it was around 4,000 people had to share that link. This is actually the actual satellite down at the Briars on St. Helena. This is at one dish right there, basically. So at the time, the cheapest package was around £13 a month, but you were only allowed 1.1 gigabytes. And then the most expensive one is 160 quid. It was at the time, and it was 31 gigabytes. So it was pretty expensive at the time. The off-peak, you had this time where you had to basically wait from 12 at midnight to 6 a.m. in the morning, to get the free megabytes. And that was the only way you could get uncapped at the time. To the local schools, it was uncapped, but because of the low bandwidth, it was still painful. If loads of students were on at the same time, this happened a lot. At the moment, we've tapped into the cable. It's still not its full potential at the moment, but the cost has gone down a lot, and we can actually have now uncapped data. But we still aren't getting the full whack of the cable due to the fact that we're still operating over phone lines, copper, and not fiber at the moment to the home. But that is the next stage of the project, hopefully, where they have like either fiber to the home or maybe some high-speed wireless links. Thanks. Over to you now.
Okay, can you go on to the next slide, please? Okay, look, very briefly, there are historical precedents, not the first major investment. Can you keep going through the slides, Gareth? Just fill up the slides is easiest. So keep going. Okay, so historically it's been an important node in a global information network. We heard about this from Isabel, and not to mention the explosion of interest during Napoleon's captivity. I think it's unreasonable to say that somehow Equiano is the first time St. Helena has been this well connected. Gareth, next slide, please. And this is, I mean, I'm skipping through stuff I was going to spend a little longer going through, but in 1899, it took 6 weeks before St. Helena was first connected to Cape Town by the original Eastern Telegraph Company's communications cable. 6 weeks after the breakout of the Boer War. We assumed the diplomatic wireless service was receiving transmissions from Africa, etc., etc. Yet what I have concluded from the archive studies is how few these benefits have trickled down to saints themselves at the time. Gareth, keep going, please. And usage costs of that 1899 telegraph cable remained high. It did strike me that while a lot is said about the help that the diplomatic wireless service staff gave to Radio St. Helena in the setup, and how cable and wireless would allow the Radio St. Helena to be transmitted to the world, once a year, there's still this sense of me going as an outsider, well, couldn't they have done it every day? Or couldn't they have just done it on Saturdays, every week? Keep going, Gareth, because looking at the results so far, just skip through that one. We'll go to the next one. Flows to and from the island have greatly improved. And if you just keep skipping through, Gareth, you've got this now greater access to expertise, greater access to educational opportunities, greater access to friends and family, greater access to knowledge exchange and generation, just like the one we're in now. We'll hear about iRecords tomorrow. I really like iRecord. I think it's nice, and I think, I'm looking forward to the presentation about it tomorrow. Next slide, Gareth. And I think this has given rise to educational opportunities, but they're being met. They are being met by them in picture there of an event that Gareth and his Chevening alumni colleagues, that was January 23, I think, wasn't it? And, there are issues arising, learning needs with regard to the island's cybersecurity, but also, business opportunities. And the island community, I think, is bringing themselves together in order to, raise awareness of these risks and opportunities. But one thing I have noticed, and I will be very brief, but next slide, please, Gareth, and just skip through it. See, there you go. There's my timer. I'll give myself another minute. I found it difficult while I've been there recently to share information around the island with my colleagues. St. Helena's never had the need before to have information designers, for example. Its regulatory frameworks are still, as they were, rather than having been upgraded for this new digital era. The monopoly ISP, I may try to leave them nameless, have little incentive to invest and carry on going through, Gareth. I think one consequence of this has been, me thinking, well, the original EDF funding put the cable on the beach, if you like. But the rest of the work that Gareth has already mentioned, upgrading the fiber optics, these learning and educational opportunities, I wonder why that hasn't been met by the EDF in the first place. So similar pattern to previous investments, good at putting flows on and off the island. I promise to stop now. And not so great at moving it around the island. And we're done. Told you it was unpracticed, but there you go.